Hello and welcome to Inside the Third Space. In each episode, we delve into the concepts of being in the third space through the unique perspectives of different individuals, uncovering their insights, experiences, and identity. My name is Nasreen Danish and I am an educational developer at Faculty of Engineering here in UNSW. To me, the third space means an opportunity to provide the support in co-designing teaching materials and navigating between teaching and administration. Today, I'm joined by Natalie Gelche, a senior education developer from the Faculty of Engineering. Natalie, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Nasreen. It's great to be here.
So, Natalie, what does the term third space mean to you? When did you first hear about it?
I actually first heard about the term in a completely different context, and it would have a completely different meaning. And it was during the pandemic.
Interesting.
And it was referred to as those spaces between home life and work life. So think about like your commute to and from work, for instance. So throughout the pandemic, we lost those moments, and that had a tremendous impact on our well-being. But I've since heard the same term referred to as this kind of middle space where my profession exists as an educational developer. I'm a professional staff member, and that has its own kind of subculture within the university. But I, for the most part, work very closely with academics who operate, within a different subculture, and I have to navigate between those two spaces.
So how does the third space then relate to your role? How do you see that the work that you're doing fits in this space?
I guess it relates to my role in that I exist within this third space, right? I've worked within the learning and teaching space at UNSW, supporting academics with learning and teaching related matters for just over 10 years now.
Wow.
And that range from things in like governance matters, academic integrity, student surveys, Moodle support and curriculum design. So I've been in this space for a long time, and it's just kind of become second nature to me, and I don't think too much about it. I started my career in human resource management, and my first position within the higher education sector was within a central HR team, and the only difference between an academic and a professional staff member was always just a contractual one. But as I moved into the learning and teaching space, that's where there was definitely a cultural shift for me, because I now had to kind of work more closely with academics, day to day.
Yeah.
And there were clear differences in the way that they worked, in what they valued, the kind of pressures that were put on them, and they had very different work schedules and things like that. So I guess I've always seen myself as a middle person operating in this third space. I don't want to say a translator. I don't think that's quite the right word, but I understand the university context well, right? The policies and procedures, the strategic direction we need to be on. I understand curriculum and andragogy, and it's not a matter of me communicating that information through words. I think I convey it when I partner with academics to complete projects. We each bring our own knowledge to the table, and when we work together, and I might bring the tools and maybe put language around things, but we collaborate and achieve things together.
Wow, that's an interesting journey. Thank you. So how did you actually land in this space?
How did I end up here? That's a good question. It's been a very long journey here, and I think like a lot of people who I speak to in this space, I kind of fell into this area of work. I completed a social science and policy bachelor's degree with a major in human resource management. So my early career was in HR.
Wow.
And then my first job at UNSW was in a HR capacity, but it was within the learning and teaching unit. So they're the central unit that kind of drove all the strategic learning and teaching projects, which is now probably PVCE. And I remember vividly that they had monthly unit meetings, and they would kind of share all the projects that were happening at the time. And I remember at the time they were transitioning over from Blackboard to Moodle. That was one of the big projects, but there were a lot of things going on. And I thought that everything we did in that unit was amazing, right? Then, so I was only there a year, and then I went over to COFA, which is the today Art and Design at the Paddington campus. Where I was there on a kind of casual basis supporting the Associate Dean Academic who oversaw everything learning and teaching. And one of the first things that I noticed when I was there is everything that I thought was amazing at the central unit was not used within the faculty. So I just saw that big disconnect immediately. But I learned a lot in that role. Over 5 years there, the position changed a lot. And, one rainy afternoon, Moodle kind of just fell on my lap. At first, it was they were asking me to just add academic staff to each module. And so I was doing that. And then naturally, when some questions from academics come to you in relation to Moodle, they just start building. If they don't find the person who can answer the question, they'll find whoever they know. And that ended up being me. And I decided to complete some postgraduate study at the time because I thought I was interested enough in the space. So I did a graduate certificate in learning sciences and technology. And then while I was studying, I think my confidence grew and I applied for the faculty educational technologists at Arts and Social Sciences. That was a really difficult move for me, only because I'm not a particularly techie person and I was uncomfortable with the job title of educational technologist. I made it vividly clear in my interview that I know not too much about technology, but I think that they valued my communication skills more than anything. And I could probably relate a lot to academics who were resistant with technology because I myself was probably quite resistant with technology as well. So I could relate to them in that way, and I think that helped in that position. I think people who really knew technology weren't probably reaching out for me, right? And then moved over into a course designer position at the business school, which was, again, another massive shift for me for a few different reasons, in that for the first time, I probably wasn't working with academics who were as willing to work with me, like I had experience within the ed tech space. I feel within that previous space, especially more seasoned academics, they're kind of happy to say that they don't know how to use a tool and reach out for help, but that's just not the same case in the teaching space or in the course design space. They've constructed their own knowledge over time. They have an understanding based on their own experiences about what is good and what is bad. Yeah. And I guess they don't feel like they might need my help as much. And it's probably also a combination that I also think a lot of academics have been kind of starved for support within this space as well. And then now I'm here. I'm in where am I? I'm in I'm in the Faculty of Engineering as an educational developer, and it's I'm well cemented in this third space.
Wow, I'm very impressed, Natalie. So I know that you mentioned a few of the challenges that you've just described while in your journey, but as a third space professional, what are the other pain points you hit navigating this space?
Yeah, I guess for me, not being an academic and sometimes not having or not feeling like you have that credibility to support and help academics with their learning and teaching has been an issue for me. I've suffered from serious bouts of imposter syndrome throughout my career for different reasons. And at first it was, about technology. I don't know enough about technology to be an educational technologist. Then it was like, how can I help an academic with their learning and teaching if I've never really taught myself? The extent of how I would understand the teaching aspect would be, I design and I deliver workshops, but where you apply kind of some of those same principles, right? But it's not exactly the same. So in recent years, I've had to kind of reframe. So I kind of think it's almost good that I haven't had that teaching experience, or at least that's what I've been convincing myself of in the last few years, because I think I will possess a really unique experience of teaching if I myself taught, right? Yes. And I'd have more conviction about, yes, this works, this works, and I don't understand. I think I would lose that. I could perhaps lose that ability to empathise. What I do bring to the table is 10 years of experience listening to a range of different academics who have had a range of different experiences, and that's what I bring to the table. So when you tell me about something that you're experiencing, I can recall on other people having that same experience. I can recall how they have tried to solve those things. I can recall how maybe I have helped in trying to help them solve those things. So I think that's a challenge, in terms of my experience. And I think another big one for me is related to not really having control or power to make things happen. I'm not sure if that makes sense. all our work really rests on building relationships with academics, right, and partnering with them, because they have ultimate power of the domain that we want to make changes in, which is the classroom. So I think that's a big challenge for our role.
Yeah, and I think your 10 years will be very, very beneficial. Now, what's important for third space professionals to be doing right now?
It's funny because previously I said I was resistant to technology, and I still am. But I think we have to, now's the time to kind of embrace AI. We have to get on that AI bandwagon and make sure not to miss the wagon. I'm not sure. I'm not very good with expressions. The education landscape is changing significantly and very quickly. It's impacting, students in the way that they learn, teachers in the way they teach, but it's also impacting how we work and how we can work. So I think we need to take that time to invest and understand what these tools can do for us. I think it's important for us to understand also how we add value to education and to dismantle the cultural divide between academics and professional staff. And in a way, I kind of think that that's what the third space is trying to do, right? The notion of it. We aren't necessarily like an intermediary between two spaces. We're a legitimate space of our own. And I think we need to continue to have conversations like we're having today and just continue to celebrate what we do and the value that we bring to education.
Thank you, Natalie. My final question for you for today. What do you say to people who actually want to explore a role in the third space? Do you have any advice for your third space peers? Or peers who want to come into the third space?
Yeah, I would say do it. Come and join us. There's plenty of room for you. I think people who I've spoken to who are interested in this space have always been worried about the type of experience they have. And I think what's really nice about our space, and I just even think about our own team at the moment, we just have such a different background of experience, and I think that just makes the team richer. And I think just apply. There's room for you. I think you just have to find the right team. And just because you've been knocked back in one position, it doesn't mean you're going to be knocked back in another. Like I said, people are looking for a unique set of skills for their team. So you might not fit in engineering, but you might fit in business. So that's what I would say. And it can be an incredibly challenging space to work in, but I think it's also incredibly rewarding.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Natalie, for joining us and for sharing all of your insights, your journey. And to the listeners, thank you for tuning in to Inside the Third Space. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the third space. This episode of Inside the Third Space was presented by me, Nasreen Danish. Our editor is Morgan Harris, and our producer is Ellie McDougall. We were joined today by our guest, Natalie Gelche.